Old people are ruining France. COVID money went missing to the tune of $12 billion. And we've got a joke about a seal that goes into a bar. Welcome back to Temporally Scripted. We're here again for another whirlwind tour of the world's latest and greatest news. And we'll finish off with one of our top fives just to keep you all excited and ready to go for next week. I'm here with my very handsome and young friend, Adam. How's it going there?
Having a hard life, being very handsome and very young.
Life is always more difficult when you're so handsome, isn't it?
And so young at the same time.
I know.
If there's any maybe American viewers that don't really get sarcasm so much, then we're kind of English and it's how it goes, I guess.
Yeah. But if you do think...
I was just going to say that is quite a funny, like, sort of cultural difference. You know, sometimes like you'll be talking to someone American and you'll do something sarcastic and they're just like, whereas normally we just laugh and be like, yeah, but it's just completely different.
Yeah, although I think we're becoming more on vogue with the Americans thanks to like Ricky Gervais, and I think Jimmy Carr might be starting to get big out there and now. So I think over time they're gradually getting more used to this sarcastic sort of vibe, because I know some of the jokes we used to make, and obviously where we live, we get to spend our time with Americans, Canadians, whatever. And some of the jokes as English people make between each other would result in a fight if you said it to someone in the US.
Yeah, in the wrong place at the wrong time of night, probably in a bar, it would not go so well.
I'm looking at you, mum jokes.
Yeah, completely. But anyway.
So I'm assuming you're excited for today's episode. There's, some great stories going on around the world as always, and some of them fun for a change.
Yeah, as always, I'm naturally excited for this episode. Stocked up on the Imodium again and should be all right. I don't think I'll need any breaks.
I can feel the excitement pouring out of you. So
me too.
What is it with these old people not dying soon enough and sapping the resources of Western economies?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's just, it seems to be how it goes at the moment in the majority of countries. I don't know, for so many years we're told it's like, oh, the world's going to be overpopulated and it's going to be a huge problem and things like that. And it's like, all of a sudden we have massively declining birth rates. And yeah, the states of most countries pretty much are going to have to deal with having so many pensions to pay.
Yeah, it's something that I caveat a lot of the things I say because I can't remember where they come from. And it's getting better now because I'm using ChatGPT to fact check myself, which is obviously always accurate. So these things are improving.
Completely.
But quite often I can't remember where I got a fact from. And sometimes because my memory for these things is quite good, it might have been in the playground when I was 7, playing football with a few mates, and talking about like lunch break and what was in my sandwiches. And it's sort of the same with how people treat population statistics, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's like you get told something and then it just becomes fact for you, and it's just like one of the truths, one of the many truths that like your life is kind of built on. But then every so often, some of those truths get disproved, and you're like, and it makes you kind of rethink what you thought you knew.
Yeah, it's almost like my mind is a blockchain, and once the evidence is in there, it's very hard to shift it.
But yeah, I guess so.
One of them most recently was I said, in hot countries, people always drink tea and hot drinks because it makes you cooler. And so I was going around Vietnam for the last 10 years, insisting on drinking, herbal teas and hot coffees and whatever, wherever I go, and telling my wife proudly, it makes you cooler.
And just then sweating your glasses off, literally sweating so much your glasses just
Just slide down my face, yeah. And it turns out that if you live in a very humid environment, that's absolutely not the case, because you can't perspire enough for it to make any difference. So there you go.
Yeah, but I remember being given that advice when I was a kid as well by like, I think it was my great auntie. And I think my mum believed it for a while as well. It's like, oh, it's really hot today. It didn't happen very often in northeast of England in summer. But when it was, oh, well, just have a cup of tea. It'll cool you down. And it's like, try it. And it's like, this is not cooling me down. I feel like twice as bad.
It's really not working. Yeah, exactly that. So back to this story in France. So obviously COVID level spendings were quite high because people were keeling over and whatnot, and you needed all of these social distancing activities. But why France specifically? I think this is particularly, by 2070, it says that 1 in 3 French citizens is projected to be over 65, and their working population will shrink by more than 3 million. Is that the disaster, or is it that French people don't like to work more than 30 hours a week?
Um, well, for is that. Also, I can't remember. Recently, they tried to increase the retirement age, and I think it was from like 62 to 63 or something like that. And that was it. Everyone's out in the streets protesting, and the government had to like backtrack on it because they were just like, no way.
Yeah,
So,
well,
yeah.
it's kind of the way in France. If they win something, they burn things. If they're not happy about something, they burn things. If it's some kind of national event or day going on, they burn things,
Which I mean, you've got to admire in some ways, but yeah, I mean, 2070 is quite a long way away as well. But when you get to that kind of stage where like a third of the population is retired, that makes a very, very different kind of society. And on top of that, it's like, where does all the money come from?
Yeah, I mean, that's assuming that people will be allowed to retire by the time 2070 comes around. I mean, will we be retired by then, Adam? I guess we'll still be recording the podcast. We might have 100 subscribers by then. Don't forget, hit the bell, like, subscribe, leave a comment.
That was well placed. But yeah, I mean, I just don't understand where, by current standards, where the government would find the money from. And I think all countries can have a similar thing. And I wonder if they're going to maybe stop dishing out pensions after a certain time because they just can't afford to. I mean, and also we've spoken before about like debt to GDP ratios and things like that. As that increases, which it will, you're just going to have less and less money. And so how do you support such an aging population?
Well, and I think the issue is that most governments don't really care because they don't have more than a 5-year plan. As the way politics are at the moment in the West, nobody's really lasting much longer than that. But I think there is a general quiet preparation for it, in the sense that when I used to work for Boots in their corporate office in my sort of last days there, it became compulsory that you had to pay a percentage of your salary into a pension that was then backed and supported by the company. So I think there was already a bit of a movement of like, there won't be a state pension by the time you guys retire. And I wonder if there will be a state pension, but you only get to draw it when you reach sort of 95 years old.
Yeah, it could well be. Yeah, and maybe because I keep thinking, should I be like paying national insurance and things like that to the UK because you still can when you live out of the UK, and sort of thinking, okay, well then I'll get my X amount of years and get a pension and things. But at the same time, by the time I retire, I just don't know if they'll be even doing it. It becomes a worry. One thing I did look at the other day is I put in, asked ChatGPT. I can't remember the number either, so this is going to suck as a story. But
Awesome.
I asked ChatGPT, how much money would I have now if I'd have invested $1 a day in the S&P, like the S&P 500, and how much if I'd invested $1 a day in gold for the last 20 years. And the amounts that I'd have now, it's like, I'd be retiring now, And so I wonder whether really the best thing to do is for people to just look into investing a little bit more and at least have that as like a backup, and it doesn't take much to invest like a small amount in gold each week, or not financial advice, of course, or consult a financial advisor first. But it's like, it just seems like something like that seems to make more sense.
Yeah, I mean, at the rate my teeth are falling out, I could just do one gold tooth every couple of days and catch up. But
yeah, just stick it in a safe.
yeah, but to counter that argument, I saw a post by Alex Hormozy, who runs acquisition.com. You've probably seen him. He's a super hench dude, really cool businessman, and knows this
Yeah, he
stuff.
calls me up sometimes for like training advice and things like that, and how to like right nutrition, proper like workout routines, and
Skincare tips. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So he posted the other day and he said this is going to be unpopular for some people, but when people say you should invest $100 a month, and if you do that, by the time you get to retirement age, you're going to have like $1.2 million or something like that. And he said, but if you break that down, looking at the rate of inflation, that $1.2 million by the time you hit retirement age is only really worth about $140,000, which means you're likely to be a burden on your children and whatever else to survive, even if you have the $1.2 million. And the best bit about this post was people underneath just saying, oh, great, thanks for the cold shower or whatever else. And then someone else posted underneath, well, I've already got my retirement plan sorted out, a bullet.
Whether it's in jest or not, that's a great response.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does make you wonder, like, what are you supposed to do with everything changing and moving? And I think it puts a little bit into the world of, well, enjoy it while you can, because I think sometimes there's two choices about retirement age and old age. And number one is be so stinking rich that you can do whatever you want. And number two is have absolutely zero, because then someone will probably have to take care of you.
Pretty much, yeah. It seems to be kind of how it goes. But
so what's the action plan in France? Sorry.
What, for me or France?
Yeah, for France. I mean, are they going to start making old people useful or something? Get them on TikTok, maybe some of that sweet ad revenue?
I think that's going to have to be the way forward. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I mean, what do you think they should do? Or what is their plan?
Well, I think encouraging people to get more into doing things they don't hate for work, which I believe with the way technology is moving is probably what's going to happen. People will be able to do more of what they enjoy, and we'll have an economy of people doing individual services that they don't absolutely hate, and people will work longer. Like if I look at what I do, and this is going to make me sound really sad because obviously I work in marketing, client acquisition, and these kind of things. I actually really, really enjoy it. And I can't see a time where I would want to stop doing it. I think that as I get older, it will obviously develop, but I would quite like to just continue with some kind of work way into retirement. So I think that the way to look at this is, how do we build an economy where people don't hate what they do for 90% of their waking day, and therefore won't be so attached to the idea of stopping working? Because I think the other benefit to that, as much as it doesn't help the aging population, is a lot of people retire and then die pretty soon afterwards because they have no purpose.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that actually, because there's been various studies done. It's the people that live the longest, not always, but generally, they're the people who retire but don't stop. They do like a load of different, either the hobbies that they've always loved, or new hobbies, or just get into new things, do some traveling, things like that. And you hear inspirational stories like where will be some guy in his 80s who's like finally got his PhD and things like that. And just all those kinds of things to just keep going and not stop. That's usually one of the main keys of longevity. Obviously, you need a balance with food and exercise and other things, but that's a really big one.
Yeah, for us, it could be podcasting. We can continue podcasting way into our grey years, and that can be what keeps us going. It's our purpose for the world. And, by then, as I mentioned, our 115 subscribers, if we're lucky, and people keep hitting that bell.
It could be, yeah. And I guess that's kind of it, really. But I mean, at the same time, we've got to think, how much will technology change? Because if you listen to like the AI optimists, then it could be that thing of everything on the planet just becomes so productive due to like AI, robotics, everything else, that like Elon Musk's thing, everyone becomes wealthy.
Yeah,
What,
exactly.
what
And
do you
then
call it? Universal wealthy income or something, something along those lines, which is incredibly optimistic, but it's a nice thing to hope for.
to hang our hats on, and because as we know we live in a simulation, that's possible, like, so we can just create it, manifest it, and there we go. So yeah, so I mean,
Exactly that.
speaking of money, one thing we could do to have more money available in the future is stop things like the reported 11 billion pound COVID fraud that Sky News brought out and mentioned. So there's a new watchdog that says fraud and error in the UK COVID support schemes cost taxpayers nearly 11 billion pounds, and much of that will be lost forever. And basically pointing that at, weak data, rushed scheme design, and a lack of fraud expertise across the government. I always like it when they say watchdog. It makes me think of a sort of Churchill-esque. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Remember
Right,
the
yeah, from the adverts. Yeah, of course.
yeah, the insurance adverts in the UK, for those of you that have never seen, where we have a dog going, oh yeah, oh. I guess I'll see if I can put one of them
Yeah,
on the
and
screen.
people used to buy the toys as well. So if you insured by Churchill, you'd get like a sort of nodding dog kind of toy that you could put on like the back of your car and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. When you said nodding dog there as well, it also made me think of Paula Radcliffe, but that's a different story. We'll go to that another day.
Okay.
Do you remember her? She was
Wow.
like the marathon runner that had a poo in the street once or twice.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, yeah. She had a poo in the street mid marathon because she needed to
Oh,
go.
right. So it wasn't just like for fun.
No, it wasn't just for fun. And her nickname was always the nodding dog because when she ran, she's like,
Yeah, I do remember. I had a really strange style of running.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, back to this watchdog. Sorry, I got so distracted by Churchill there. 11 billion pounds. I mean, that would be enough to have a cushy retirement, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Um, but I remember at the time, back in like 2020, when it was all kicking off, and there was all those different sort of allegations that turned out to be true about certain companies being given loads of money. And it was various MPs going, oh, yeah, I know this company. These are really good at making PPE. They'd never made it before in their lives, and it turns out they couldn't make it. And there was just so many of these different stories. And I guess in a time of panic, the government was just throwing money everywhere.
Yeah, which I mean, you'd think people getting to an age where they can't support themselves and need financial help after working their whole lives would also be something important that meant they could start throwing money around.
Yeah, maybe, but it's not always the case.
I wonder how much money of that 11 billion was spent on coming up with the name for the scheme Eat Out to Help Out.
I I would imagine that would take a large group of consultants, and you'd be talking. It's got to be like hundreds of thousands at least.
Yeah, because I don't know what comes to your mind when someone says eat out to help out.
It's one way to help out. I don't know.
I mean, I guess it stops you being bored at home, improves relationship quality in general. I'm not sure
Keeps
it does
peace
much
in the
for,
household.
yeah, I'm not sure it does much for hunger, but there you go. But yeah, and it didn't even really work either. People were supposed to go out and have meals and get a subsidy, and then the companies claim back for it and all of that stuff. And my brother's like a restaurateur, and I don't think it made any real difference to what he was doing. I think the biggest winners out of all of it were like Uber Eats and these kind of companies.
Yeah. Oh, and then sort of like Amazon and other companies where people were furloughed, so they were just sat at home getting money. What shall I do? Oh, just order this, order that, get some nice curry afterwards or something. And I guess all the money just got squandered on all kinds of things, really, but just there was no need for.
Yeah, yeah, and it always seems in these situations that it's only the people that know how to work the system that end up being beneficiaries of like these mass scale fraud situations, you know. And there's no repercussions. And the irony of it all is if you wanted to go and find out who abused those systems, it would probably cost another 5 billion of taxpayers' money.
Yeah, which again you're never going to get back.
Yeah, yeah.
And you did have all those things like furlough, bounce back loans, support grants, all of this stuff. And there were people completely gaming the system. There was a lot of fraud going on and people claiming all kinds of expenses and money for, in some cases, businesses that didn't exist. But yeah, I mean, according to this article in Sky News, 1.8 billion of the losses has been recovered so far, but it says much of the remaining sum is now beyond recovery.
Does it say how much it costs to recover that 1+ billion?
It doesn't know. So you've got to deduct whatever that costs. Maybe it's just a civil servant on a low wage in a back office that did it, but probably not.
Yeah, well, probably they're doing the doing, but the people that came up with the recovery plan.
Yeah, who knows? There's definitely some misallocated funds still flying the way around somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I guess when it's a time of extreme circumstances, there are going to be less checks, and some of that needs to be understood. But I think it's just humans are generally quite bad at making decisions on a big scale, you know?
Especially when it's something really serious. I guess that decision making gets even worse. But also, I remember at that time, everything was just blamed on COVID, and it was after that for like years as well. Things are pretty much back to normal, and it'd be like, oh, well, why don't the trains run on time? Oh, it's because of COVID. You know, we've just had a pandemic, and that was kind of like the excuse that politicians would use for everything. Why isn't this working? Why is everything more expensive? Well, COVID, nothing to do with us. And it was like an easy way to just bury all the rubbish and all the like ineptitude behind this word of pandemic, and it's just really, really dodgy.
Yeah, it was certainly extreme times, and probably the biggest event we've ever seen in our lives, really, as you know, around 40-year-old men. It was that I can't think of anything else that was quite as extreme or crazy as COVID.
Yeah, completely. And all the lockdowns and just seeing everywhere just close for quite a long time. It's absolutely nuts.
Hopefully not something we see again. So that would be, be good to avoid any more of that. So moving on from COVID and also older people ruining the economy, those pesky old people that have worked their whole lives to have a relaxed retirement. Interesting story here about Chernobyl and evolution. Have you heard about these black frogs and evolving dogs, Adam?
I had heard a little bit about them before, and I read a bit more in an article today. But yeah, it seems like various species in the area of Chernobyl, where the power plant was, have evolved quite rapidly and changed their DNA. And we have all kinds of really bizarre things. So with the frogs, they were originally lime green, but they've now become black. It's almost like a way to protect themselves from the radiation, so that the actual color helps them get less problems from the radiation. They're absorbing it less.
That's crazy. It's interesting because I sometimes go down a rabbit hole of people that sneak into the exclusion zone and make videos for YouTube and stuff and watching them. And they go around with one of those Geiger meters. And it's kind of random. It's like some things you'll go to and the Geiger meter goes crazy. And then other things, it's like not so much. It's really weird how the radiation sort of over time is more extreme in certain places and not so extreme in others. So you would imagine that a lot of these animals, as much as they're evolving, some of it's really, really good for the environment. You know, a lot of these things are thriving in there, as I understand it.
Well, one of the interesting ones is a kind of mold that seems to be able to like feed off radiation. So we'd never studied it before. I'm not saying it's a good thing, and it's great that there was a nuclear meltdown, and if not, we wouldn't know this. But but it is kind of interesting. This kind of mold can basically eat and sort of perhaps get rid of areas of high radioactivity. It would take time, but yeah.
So is there a potential that they could use that to clean up after these disasters and start, you know, making a way that that mold is more prolific than it is in this natural situation?
Yeah, well, it seems that it eats radiation. So some people are saying that maybe in the future we could use it to help astronauts, because in the depths of space, you're going to get cosmic rays and things like that. So could this be developed in a way that could be used to like shield ships, or perhaps in some other way too? It's really cool. It's really sort of sci-fi.
Yeah, and I mean the whole thing with Chernobyl is not over either, is it? So as I understand it, they built a massive concrete cover over the reactor, but that concrete will degrade over time and it will still be an issue there. So there's still plenty of work to be done, and I guess the animals there, you know, are going to have to evolve even further if they're to survive in that area.
Yeah, completely, because it's just they would have to. But yeah, I mean, there's loads of dogs there that were either like pets at the time. And so, yeah, they've just kind of carried on living and doing their thing in some ways, but in this like highly radioactive place. And now apparently they're like genetically distinct from dogs that are just 10 miles away. So it's like it's just changed their genes. And it seems like all the animals that are there have kind of like evolved, even though it's only been what, like 40 years, but they've evolved to not be affected by the radiation in the same way.
Crazy. So obviously so many people tragically lost their lives when Chernobyl happened, and I know
Yeah,
if you visit there,
90,000, I think, have died just
wow.
from, let's see, yeah, just from like cancers and other illnesses that are linked to it. And of course, that's an estimate, but I remember learning about it at school and things. And at the time when it happened, you had like a huge cloud of radiation that would go all the way from there. And I think it went over parts of Britain in some points as well. And so at that time, people were just praying that it didn't rain, because it would be radioactive rain. And yeah, horrifically as well. But I saw one headline the other day about the sarcophagus that covers Chernobyl being damaged because of the war in Ukraine. Yeah, we definitely don't need that to go up in flames, because it's still unbelievably like radioactive and dangerous, and it will be for an incredibly long time.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even know. Presumably, it's in Ukraine, and they have to try and control it. But with all the rest of the stuff going on at the moment, it's probably not at the top of the list of priorities. You know?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I mean, when I saw a headline saying like mutant animals from nuclear accident, I was hoping for like a Simpsons three-eyed fish or something like that, but
no such luck. No such luck. Yeah.
And, I mean, there's that joke as well, isn't there? Of like, why shouldn't you buy Ukrainian underwear? Because Chernobyl fallout.
Oh dear, that one's going in my collection for sure. Yeah, that's wild. So I guess there's probably similar things happening in Fukushima in Japan as well, because I know recently we had a tsunami again in Japan, which was from quite a significant 7.5 uh, on the Richter scale
Oh,
earthquake.
earthquake. Yeah.
Yeah, in Japan, I think last week. And yeah, obviously there must be quite a fallout from that as well, from I think 10 or 15 years ago now.
Yeah, well, I remember watching different podcasts and some people that kind of not necessarily experts in this, but has really done some digging on it, saying that if you ate tuna from around that area and from like a huge part of the ocean around it as well, then things like cesium 90 and things like that was much higher levels. So it's actually maybe not very, very dangerous, but do you want to be eating radioactive food? I mean, we do anyway, because like not a lot of people know that bananas are radioactive, but it's only like a small amount. It's kind of the same as background radiation kind of thing. I don't know the extent of like the radioactivity of tuna fish in the oceans around Japan, but apparently it was much higher.
So high in protein, but high in mercury and radioactivity. So
Cesium 90, which is good.
you can get I mean, maybe that'll over time give you some
I'm-
kind of extra muscles or something. I don't know.
I think so, and I'm sure I've eaten worse breakfast cereals when I was a kid.
Yeah, banana bubbles, a cereal that thinks it's a milkshake. I think most certainly. It's a jingle I still remember fondly. So let's move on to some Britishness. This next story is one of the most British stories I've heard in a very long time. There's a dude in the UK called Ed the Shed, and Ed the Shed has made a garden shed that goes 123 miles per hour. It's a Guinness certified speed machine and outpaces all of the other fastest sheds that have ever been made, which I'm assuming all made by some British dude in a shed. How meta is that, ladies and gentlemen? The world's fastest shed made in a shed by a man called Ed the Shed. Yeah, so this 61-year-old dude, what a legend, has made this almost 200 kilometers per hour shed.
Which kind of like we were saying earlier about sort of retiring and not giving up, or like getting older and still pursuing your dreams or working on cool things. That's Ed the Shed. You know, he's just absolutely smashed it. What a legend.
Yeah, I don't know what I like more about this story. The fact that it's Ed the Shed with a TVR engine, which is the most British thing ever, or the fact that that statistic comes from shedblog.co.uk.
Which I am an avid reader of, as you know. You can't, I don't know if there is a better publication in the UK.
Well, I have to say, when I remember very fondly my first shed when I was in my early 20s. My girlfriend at the time moved in with me, and she wasn't a great fan of my smoking and drinking habit. So, as it was very cold, I purchased a shed and built it in the garden. And it was only kind of big enough for an armchair and me, and
that's all you need.
various other things. And I spent many an hour fondly in that shed. In fact, once me and my friend Ryan spent an evening in that shed and didn't leave until sunrise in the morning. And he went off to work with white paint on his trousers. So, yeah.
Sounds pretty dodgy.
Fun times.
But yeah. I mean, back to the story, you've got to admire the guy for doing what he's done, really. It just seems it's a ridiculous thing to sort of think, oh, I'll just make the fastest shed on earth. But here we go. He took his wild idea and just ran with it. And now he's a celebrity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have seen some cool things like this in the past. I once saw a motorized sofa that I think, again, was built in the UK, because these are the kind of things that we're very good at. But what was pretty cool about this sofa is the steering wheel was a pizza tray.
Right, okay.
So you could
I
just...
might have seen it. I don't know if it was the same one, but did it have like a lamp? and things like that attached to it. So kind of like a standard lamp with a shade and stuff.
That's the one. Yeah. Yeah. So it was fully operational motorized sofa with a number plate and everything. So you could in fact drive it down to the shops and yeah.
Because it somehow made it road legal.
Yeah, yeah. So I wonder what else. I think I've also seen a bed as well, but Ed the bed, Ed the shed. I'm not sure if it was the same guy or somebody else.
It might be the same guy under a different pseudonym.
So perhaps this is the way that people should live into their old age, like you mentioned. Start building ridiculous things that go 123 miles per hour.
Yeah, just take a leaf out of his book, and if you don't know what to do, first buy yourself a 4.5-liter V8 engine and take things from there. You'll find something you can attach to it.
What do you think it is about Britain that makes these things so prevalent in our great nation?
I really don't know. I wonder if it's because if you think back to the Second World War, like Great Britain, people were like just super inventive in the various things that they came up with during that war in terms of tactics, technologies. Everything was just like this amazing thing, and they achieved so much. Whether that was with different kinds of aircraft, absolutely crazy sort of tactics, just amazing inventiveness. Like, have you ever heard of Operation Mincemeat?
No.
Right. I can't remember the countries, but what they basically did is they had like the corpse of, I think it was like a Navy officer, and they like had him on ice basically. But because they knew there was going to be German spies and things like that in the UK, because there always is. So they invented a character that kind of looked like him, that was working, and he was kind of like some officer and did all of this stuff. And then they faked that this guy was going somewhere, going on duty, but they took the corpse instead. And what they did is put like plans, like battle plans for where the English Navy was going to go and land. And we were going to fight in this place. And they made all the battle plans in kind of his pockets and things like that. And then just dropped the corpse out at sea, knowing that it would wash up in German occupied territory. So, and it was this huge, elaborate story that spent so long working on. But yeah, so basically this happens. The body gets found. It gets returned as well. But they'd found a way so they could tell if like documents had been read. So it had like I think it was just like a hair stuck to it or something like that. But they got the documents back and they saw, oh, right, they've read it. So now Germany thinks that the Allies are going to attack this place at this date. So they send loads of troops to this place. Of course, they're not going to attack there. They're going to attack somewhere else that's now weak.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's really long-winded, but it's just so brilliant. And just, yeah, I think that's I don't know if it's like a hangover from World War II that British people still have a bit of that in them, or if it's just like a natural thing that we do, but it's definitely a British trait.
Yeah, it's like a plucky, inventive in some random shed. Like, I think that's the key to us getting back to our greatness as a nation, It's in some random shed in Burnley, like, with some dude. It's like, if you look back at like the days, have you ever watched any of Fred Dibner stuff?
Oh, I remember at the time, yeah.
He's like a steeplejack and like goes and takes down steeples and makes documentaries about that stuff. But again, it's that kind of inventiveness that you just don't really see or know us for in the younger generations, which I think is a real shame.
Do you remember Scrap Heap Challenge?
Yeah, that was awesome television. It's where they go and they get like they're in a junkyard and they have to build a certain machine that could be a boat, could be a whatever, and it's got to do a task as the challenge. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Those are the days.
So yeah, I really don't know why it's like so much of a British thing, but it really, really is.
Yeah, it could be because of that. I mean, and again, it's the same in all of Northern Europe, but that part of the world is very, very difficult to survive in.
Yeah, true. It's not like somewhere that's the kind of thing where there's just food everywhere.
Yeah,
Because you go some parts of the world and I don't know, you can eat some fruit, spits the seeds out. I don't know, 2 months later, you'll have some more fruit or some more vegetables, whatever else. Whereas it's a little bit trickier once you get so far north.
yeah. If you're in the UK and you don't prepare for the winter in the past, you're basically dead and gone. And I think, some of that hardship has been lost, and maybe that's why we are where we are right now. Anyway,
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
I take my hat off to Ed the Shed and people that are like that and think in that same way, because we need more of it. We need more of it. So this last part is a joke. A baby seal walks into the bar. Yeah, it's not a joke. It actually happened. So in Richmond, New Zealand, a baby seal has walked into a craft beer bar and hid under the dishwasher. And the only way they could get it out is by dangling a little bit of salmon, presumably in a provocative way, to take it
How do
back
you
out.
how do you provocatively wave salmon?
Come round to my house at Christmas and I will show you. That's an invite that you don't want to miss. And the owners of said bar and the staff now say they have the seal of approval.
Yeah, it's good.
I love it. I love it. So
I mean,
yeah, can you?
it's not really much of a story, is it? But it's just sort of a nice image.
Yeah,
Nice
I
thing
think
to
the
think
world
about.
needs more of this. It's like when you go on to when we do our preparation, because I don't really read the news much. So this is my news of the week, is preparing for this episode. I go and look around and, finding stories of doom and gloom and people being too old and taking money out of their system, not knowing what they're going to do, and 12 billions worth of fraud, and, nuclear disasters and millions of other heavily depressing and sad events are really easy to come by. We could probably sit and talk for 3 hours about terrible things that are going in the world. But then, finding stories like a baby seal walks into a bar, or like we had last week, the drunken skunk or whatever it was, as I
Raccoon.
remember, the raccoon. These are the things that really lighten up my week and change my day around. So yeah.
Yeah, same here, really. It's just nice things to think about. And I don't know, it's it's really easy these days as well. Just if you look on your news app or I mean, we were talking about what rage base and things like that the other day, and that's part of it as well. Whether it's your news feed, whether it's on social media, there's all that kind of thing, and there's so many things to be depressed about. And the sort of funny, light-hearted stuff just isn't really reported enough. And it kind of should be, because all of these things are going on in the world. It's really easy to find a place that's having the worst weather in history for that place, or it's easy to find some like horrific thing that's happened somewhere. It's easy to find good stories as well, and really they should be reported a little bit more, because I think if people were just a little bit more lighthearted and focused on good, the world would be a better place and it would be a lot more optimistic, rather than everyone going to work like looking at the phone going like being irate or depressed or whatever.
Yeah, because we are products of what we take in. So I think, a bit of a light story here and there, it's definitely preferable to most of the other rubbish that we see all over the news. So I like it. We're going to keep bringing it here at Temporally Scripted. And if you believe that too, then third plug of the episode, give us a like, subscribe, leave a comment. But don't argue with us about mean and median, because, we're not going to get involved in a conversation about averages, because we're not average. Right?
Exactly.
We're way beyond average, not in terms of intelligence, but in terms of entertainment. And that brings us nicely to our weekly top five. So our top five this week for the first week in December is all about history, and the history of week commencing the 7th of December. So tell me, Adam, take it away. What's the first thing on our list this week in the past?
Okay, so In 1948, on the 10th of December, a blueprint for human rights was adopted. And so the United Nations General Assembly met in Paris and adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is the first global document setting out fundamental rights and freedoms for all humans, regardless of nationality, race, or religion. And it basically came, I guess, after World War II, because there was so much just horrific stuff that went on. And they said, okay, we need to put into paper that everybody has this list as a right, no matter what, and should never be denied certain things.
And it's something that obviously has made a big change to how the world works. And I guess in some small way has led to people like Ed the Shed being able to build their world's fastest shed. and nobody say that is not a pursuit that he should follow through with.
Indeed, it is his God-given right as a human being to make a shed go 123 miles an hour.
And maybe the next bit is, rights for seals, that they are allowed to go into bars and have a drink. But this seal was underage, so you can understand why they had to remove him from the craft beer place.
And it's also it's also your right to provocatively wave salmon at a seal should you want to.
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of the things that I'm allowed to do. So what's next on the list?
Okay, well, going back to the 12th of December, 1901, Italian inventor Marconi claimed to have received the first transatlantic wireless radio signal. So this was in St. John's, Newfoundland, and they sent the Morse code letter S from Hull to Cornwall over about 3,400 kilometers. And so, yeah, the announcement electrified the public, even though some scientists at the time and since have questioned it. Because and we still don't properly know. He said, yeah, I send a signal all the way across the Atlantic, and I heard the Morse code for S being transmitted. But a lot of scientists since and then were like, wouldn't work. But
Wow.
There's no way you could send a radio signal of the kind that he was using that far. But there was a slight chance, apparently, and so there's still a bit of debate.
Well, it's 26-1 as well, so it could have just been a lucky guess. I've had teams come in on the World Cup score where I've said it'll be 4-1 to Switzerland, and at 26-1 it's come in. So it's possible, but it's also true that nobody really fully understands how some of those things work, right? It's like no one person really understands exactly how all of the parts of the infrastructure work, so that I can call you, or me and you can be sat in two separate places now on video, thankfully not cutting out, and being able to record this podcast for these lovely people.
And it is amazing that tiny beep was the ancestor to smartphones, satellite, internet, and doom scrolling in bed.
Yeah, thanks very much, Marconi.
Oh, and one thing that you said about 26-1, sometimes on TV you'll see like a magician, and there'll be a magic show, whatever, and it'll be recorded for TV, and I'll go to someone and be like, think of a card. Was it the 2 of diamonds? They'll go, wow, yeah. When you're recording for TV, you ask 52 people, probably you'll get it right eventually.
There we go. The destroyer of magic. Thank you. That's you not getting into the magic circle ever anytime soon. Okay, number 3.
Okay, well, this is the mother of all demos. So on the 9th of December, 1968, there was an engineer called Douglas Engelbart, and he gave a 90-minute live presentation in San Francisco that became known as the mother of all demos. And he showed all in this presentation, the computer mouse, the idea of Windows, not the Microsoft thing, but anyway, hypertext, video conferencing, word processing, and collaborative editing. So basically, in this one presentation, he introduced to the world everything that we still know and use about computers. in 1968.
Was he the same guy who said computers were going to get 10 times bigger and 10 times more expensive, or was that a different presentation?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe you just threw that in at the end. Or maybe we're just focusing on the things that he got right.
Yeah. Or maybe, we live in a simulation and he'd just come from the future back to tell us about computers.
Which, as we know, we proved that the simulation is real last week until next week when we disprove it. So, yeah, I think...
Take that, Steve Jobs.
Exactly. Okay, well, I guess that brings us on to number 4, dropping into Jupiter. So on the 7th of December, 1995, NASA's Galileo just got to drop that in there. But that released an atmospheric probe, and that plunged into Jupiter's atmosphere, and that was transmitting data for about 58 minutes before it was just completely destroyed by the pressure and heat of Jupiter. But it gave scientists unprecedented information on Jupiter's winds, composition, and structure. And it was just a really cool moment. When you think about it, it still always baffles me well, it doesn't baffle me, but I still find it amazing that we can do some of these things. And just sending something out there so precisely to have it just fall into another planet's atmosphere and send back data.
Yeah, when you think at some point we didn't know how to create fire or sparks or, cure a steak or whatever else. It's quite an incredible move. And we're just like, let's just spend a few billion on chucking this thing into Jupiter to figure some shit out.
Yeah, and it's just so amazing, really. And then sometimes, especially in the UK, you'll get things like public transport or different government agencies, and it just seems so chaotic and badly managed. And you're like, come on, humans can do really cool stuff. Can you not just get a bit of inspiration and not make the train break down so many times in a day?
I totally agree. Yeah. Now bring us home at number 5. What's the 5th in history this week?
Number 5. So the 13th of December, 1776. It's going back a little bit. But during the American Revolutionary War, General Charles Lee was captured by the British at Widow White's Tavern, which was in New Jersey, after straying from his troops. So he's basically in charge of this kind of platoon. It's like a really big amount of soldiers. But later accounts say that he'd gone in search of a bit of female sociability rather than reinforcing George Washington as ordered.
Legend. Went on the sesh.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I guess it's tough being in a war and being in the general. You're in a position of a lot of responsibility, and he's just gone, that's it, I'm off to the boozer, gonna try and chat up some birds.
And especially wars back then. I mean, the amount of death rate in those kind of wars would have been quite insane. So yeah, fair play to him. He's a man after my own heart.
Is that what you do in the same position?
Absolutely.
Just
Absolutely. Abandon the troops.
Yeah, but they can look after themselves. It's fine.
Yeah, come back later and check in. War's won. Job's a good one. Yeah,
nice one, lads. Where were you?
Incredible.
Need to take a bit of time out.
I love that. So that wraps us up for this week's top 5. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate you taking us through this week in history. So here we are at the end of another episode of Temporally Scripted. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget, share it with your friends, tell everyone you know, binge watch our other 400 episodes. We're not quite there yet. We are absolutely close to 50, but go and check it out. There's a wealth of interesting stuff in there. Anything you want to leave the audience with today, Adam?
Not really, other than that thing of, even if they know someone that they think would hate the show, just send it to them anyway, especially if it's someone they don't like. Just, oh no, this really good thing, you should watch this.
Yeah, and we might get more trolls, which we'd love. Trolls are a sign of success.
Because it's good fun.
Well, Adam, until next time.
Yeah, until next time, my friend.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.